Clearing close in the forest you'll find a fabulous banquet, a fairy ball. If you close your eyes and you open your mind, the veil disappears and you'll see it all.
Hi my angels, it's Hailey Reese, and today's video is one that I am so thankful and appreciative to be filming in the daytime, because if I tried to film this at night, I would spook myself out. Actually, fun fact, the only video I've ever done at night that's like actually scared me was the black-eyed children, because I had to go pick my uncle up at like 11 p.m. Whew, I was scared. Anyways, today's video is a story that I've been wanting to tell for about 2.5 weeks now, ever since I heard it. But every time I went to film it, I was just like creeped out by it, and it kind of gave me like an uneasy feeling. But today I'm like, you know what, this is a really crazy story, and it has a good ending, and light and love will always overcome any evil in the world. So we're just gonna dive right in and we're just gonna tell it. So I don't know if you guys actually know this, but for a while before I moved into my condo, I was actually living with my grandma and my uncle, and we all had like our own areas of the house, but we were all living together. And so when I moved out, it wasn't like I left this house entirely. Like, it wasn't like it was like, see ya, and then someone new moved in. They still live there. So I often go back and I often visit them in this house. So about, I would say 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I'm awful with time, but I would have to say that's about right. I went to go and visit them. Obviously, they're my family. I don't visit as much as I really would like to, but my grandma comes here a lot, and I'm really thankful for that, and I visit as much as I can. So I went to go and visit them, and my neighbor, like a couple rows up, was actually outside. And when I went to walk in, she like started waving at me, and I was like, I've never really spoken to her. Like, my grandma kind of talks to everybody in the neighborhood, that's what grandmas do. But for me, like, I was just always kind of like in and out of the house, friendly hi, but it wasn't like I would ever expect her to be like, hey, like, hold on. So I was kind of taken back by that, and I was like, okay. So I was like, hi, like, how are you? And she started asking me, you know, how's the move, and that she'd spoken to my grandma, and that I had like moved into a new space and stuff. And then she starts asking me, you know, I heard that you like make paranormal videos. You know, right away I was like, oh, Grams told her, because my grandma's favorite thing to do is to be like, they're paranormal videos. Like, anytime anyone says, oh, you make YouTube videos, she like wants them to know that I make paranormal videos. Like, she can't let them think I make beauty videos for a minute. They need to know it's paranormal. She's like so proud of it. It's so sweet. So I automatically just like assumed, oh my goodness, grandma told her like I make paranormal videos. And I was like, yeah, I do. And she's like, well, how did you get into that? And I kind of explained very quickly, but also, you know, a little bit of detail of how, you know, it kind of just happened, and I've always loved the paranormal, but I made a video on babysitting a possessed child. And right when I said that, like, her demeanor shifted. And I'm really good at reading people. Like, I'm somebody who, I don't normally annoy people in real life, because I get in real life, I might annoy you online, but not in real life, because if I'm telling someone something or I'm talking to someone, I can sense the shift in their demeanor, that they're not feeling the conversation, or that they're not enjoying what I'm saying. Like, I'm pretty good at reading people. So right away I could tell that there was a shift in her demeanor, but yet she still seemed really interested. So that confused me, because if I start to tell someone that I do paranormal videos and their demeanor shifts, it's normally because they don't believe in it, or it makes them uncomfortable, or they don't like that kind of stuff, and I'll just say, anyways, what do you do, or how are you, or I move on. But she wasn't like that. Like, she was like, oh, and it was like her mind was racing, but she kept asking me more about it. And one thing that I found really strange was she started saying things like, well, like, what were her symptoms? What was she doing? You know, what's her background? And I'm like, why does she care so much? Because people are always interested, like, what did she do? But again, the way she was saying it was really different. Like, normally when I tell people in real life, like, I honestly did babysit a possessed child, like, that story was not made up for views, like, that is a true story, they get intrigued and they ask me, so she really did this? Like, what else did she do? But this girl was like asking me as if she was like a medical professional concerned for someone's health. She was like, well, like, what were her symptoms? Like, what was she doing? Has she gotten help? Like, this and that. And I'm starting to get a little uncomfortable, because I'm like, okay, yeah, like, I don't know if she got help. I did what I could. I did what was not overstepping my space and my place as a babysitter. But at the end of the day, I'm not her grandma. I'm not her mother. I'm not the one that's gonna say, you know, your child needs a priest or your child needs medical attention. I just did my part. Then she asks me if we can sit down on my grandma's balcony. And I'm thinking, okay, like my grandma is like the coolest person ever. But if I'm like running behind, both my grandparents like start to worry about me and they'll start freaking out. So I'm like, okay, at least we're on the balcony, but like I'm supposed to be in with my grandma. Like it was all good. So we sit down on my grandma's balcony. She has like this little table and like these 2 chairs. And I'm sitting with this woman and she turns to me point blank and says, I was possessed when I was younger. And right away, I'm like, okay. And she's like, the symptoms that like that girl has are only the beginning. And now this starts to freak me out because so many of you ask me like, how's Amelia now? Where's Amelia at now? And I have no idea. Like, I have not stayed in touch with the family. That's just being honest. I stayed in touch for like a few months after I stopped watching them. But I mean, I only watched them for a short span. I'm not gonna be messaging them all the time, seeing how they are. She went on to say, you guys, that when she was younger, her faith really fell. And she started to feel like anger in her that she'd never felt before. And this anger didn't feel like anger like you would feel towards, you know, your mom if she says no to you. It's such a silly example. Or like if something goes wrong, this anger was like she wanted to hurt people. And she'd never felt like this before, and she didn't know how to express this to anybody around her without sounding like an actual crazy person all of a sudden. So she said it started out like she felt this anger inside of her, and then it started out she would have like these images like at night. So like these images would flash before her, but she wouldn't even need to close her eyes. Like when she told me that, I'm getting chills like talking about it now. Like she wouldn't even need to close her eyes. So she'd be laying there and she would see like these like demonic things in front of her, and she honestly told me that she wouldn't even tell me what she saw because I'm too pure to hear it. So then it started with images, and then it started with the whispers in the night. So she said that all of these like black shadows would whisper in her ear, and sometimes it would seem like they weren't even speaking English. They would just start whispering and stuff. So at this point in time, she was still living with her family, and she said that her family started to notice these things, and so she started to tell her sister that she felt like the devil was after her. Obviously, they didn't really believe in this. They didn't really think anything of it until she said that one day she completely blacked out. So she doesn't have any recollection of this. She doesn't remember anything to do with it, but she blacked out, and apparently she started like moving her body in contortions in like ways that she wasn't even a flexible person. Like she couldn't even move in these ways. And she said that like her family recalls that she started moving in like these weird ways and speaking in tongue. And then apparently, this is where it really got me, you guys, she said to her family, like she was speaking in tongue, and then all of a sudden in English in a voice that didn't even sound like hers, she said that like, oh gosh, I have to change her name. We'll do Annalise. She said, Annalise isn't here anymore. Like, could you guys imagine like your sister or your daughter just like starts moving in a way, and when they said like, Annalise, 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 she goes, Annalise isn't here anymore. Like in a really creepy voice. So she said like this started happening a lot. Like she would black out, and when she would black out, it was like this thing was taking over her. In the beginning, she said it was really spaced. So like only every little bit, like she would black out and these things would happen. But eventually it started happening more often than not. She started feeling really weak. She started getting really sick. She started feeling like she couldn't eat. All of this stuff, until eventually her parents actually brought a priest. She didn't say that the priest even had to do like an exorcism. She just said that it was like months of like these blessings that the priest would have to do, because it wasn't completely in her. Like it wasn't in her all the time. So they would do it when she was like coherent and good, and they would like cast this thing away. And she said it took months of these blessings, and it's been cleared, and like she restored her faith and everything's good. And like she said that that was basically what happened. But I asked her if she thought that the reason that this happened was because she had low faith, and she said she doesn't believe it was that. Ironically enough, she said that during the time that she had low faith, she was messing around with Ouija boards, she was messing around with like occult-like things. She wasn't, you know, being very safe because she didn't believe in anything. And she said that was her biggest mistake, was not believing in anything. And so, I don't know, it was the creepiest thing. This conversation literally only lasted like under 10 minutes. And then she was like, I just had to tell you that story and ask about this little girl. And it just really freaked me out to think that somebody else that I've encountered now has experienced something like this. But, I mean, it's kind of reassuring that it only took a number of blessings, that it didn't take an exorcism. But, I mean, this woman is in probably her mid-50s to mid-60s. I'm the worst at judging people's ages. So like somewhere between mid-50s to mid-60s. And I just don't see why she would flag down a 22-year-old girl to tell her this story if it weren't true. I mean, I don't even think she really understands what YouTube is. Because she was asking me a little bit about like how it works and all of that. But yeah, that is basically the story of how my neighbor was possessed. What I find really crazy about this particular story and this particular encounter is the fact that she said when this thing would take over, like everything was black, like it was as if she was sleeping, she wasn't there. And so I wonder, like, when people are being possessed, if, like, what I mean by possessed is when somebody's completely possessed, like they're completely taken over, if it's as though they're sleeping and everything's black, or they're in there and they can't control what's happening. Because I don't know if everybody's experiences are the same. No matter what, you guys, even if you're somebody who's an atheist, it does not mean that you're going to get possessed. She was fiddling around with a bunch of things she shouldn't have been for somebody who didn't believe in things. And no matter what, a positive energy, a high vibration, and light will overcome any sort of dark entity. So you don't have to worry about that. Just know that there is good in the world, there is bad in the world, and that's the way that it's always going to be, unfortunately. Well, that is it for today's story time. I thought that it was a spooky story to tell. Definitely freaked me out. I would probably want to hear about it if I hadn't already. Just the way that I ended up hearing about it was a little strange, and it just like caught me totally off guard. But nonetheless, like, I mean, it's interesting to know, and it was interesting for me to ask her, you know, what she thought the cause was, and to hear that she thought playing with Ouija boards and dueling in certain dark occult things, she thought that was the cause of it. That's always interesting to me, because anytime I see a case of somebody who's possessed and we don't know why, I always kind of want to know what the backstory is. So to have met somebody who kind of has some sort of a backstory interests me. But one thing I can say is I don't really understand how Amelia, at the age that she was, would have done anything like that. I don't know, it gets my brain going. But I hope that you guys enjoyed today's story, and that is it for today's video. If you guys are new to my channel, or you are just not yet subscribed but you do enjoy my videos, I would absolutely love it if you would go ahead and click that subscribe button, join the Reese's Pieces, and while you're at it, turn on your post notifications so you never miss a video. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you did enjoy it, because I really, really love it to see that you guys are enjoying my content. And yeah, remember, my loves, do all things with kindness. And until next time, I love you.